Welcome to the Cryptoteacher, and guys, I'm coming back with a second video to make you think. Now guys, basically I haven't done a video on the C word in a while. Of course, you know when the C word came about, I've done plenty of videos because I knew it was an agenda behind it. Remember, those who've read my book understand the agenda. Now guys, I have two videos for you. I have one for Dr. Senator Scott Jensen that I did a video on when the C word first came out. He had exposed that he received a letter to put the C word on the death certificates when that's not what they actually died from. And then also I have Mr. Ralph Barrett, who's been working on the C word since 2010. So the fact is that basically he had already been talking about this epidemic, this pandemic that would come. So he had already been researching it for 10 years. So they already knew what was coming about. But now the fact is that now we see the full picture. Now we know what the C word agenda was about. It was about shutting down the physical currency, moving us over to a cashless society, taking the masses out of employment. We saw the energy bill that Trump signed. So guys, we see the 5G coming about. I just want us to wake up, see the big picture. Guys, please get the t-shirt. We need the masses to understand that we are awake. If they see you with this t-shirt on, they see that the mask is nothing but a way to get you over to the mark of the beast, then basically they wake up also. Guys, we got to find different ways to wake the masses. And the fact is that if they see this on your t-shirt, they get to read and it starts to make sense. So guys, I just want to make sure I do this second video to make you think. Enjoy the video. You have a wonderful day.
How does it work? Okay. And how do I advance? Just this, right? All right, great. Thank you. Well, I have to admit I'm a little worried about giving this talk. Partially because, as Yogi Berra said, it's tough to make predictions, especially about the future. So there's a good chance I could be wrong. I study coronaviruses, noroviruses, flaviviruses, and do some influenza virus research, just to give you some background of what I do. The other reason that I'm a little bit worried is being labeled as a harbinger of doom. This is not me. I'm not one of the four horsemen of the apocalypse. And I want you to let you know that I'm really kind of a nice guy. So please come talk to me after this talk. I will mention that viruses are certainly in the pockets of all of the four horsemen. And they can be used in all of these scenarios. So I'd like to start off wide. MERS coronavirus emerged in 2012. It's still around today with a 36% mortality and about 2,200 cases. About the same time, you find all sorts of SARS-like viruses. In fact, these are up to 97% identical to these epidemic strains that caused human disease. So do they have pre-pandemic potential? So that's the question that we were interested in. And so what we did was this spike glycoprotein gene right here mediates species specificity. You can actually remove that spike gene from these epidemic strains and put in these bat spike genes in place of them. This was done by Vineet Menachery and other people in the lab. And of the 5 that we dropped in, being almost identical to very, very different, 3 of these could actually replicate just fine and use human receptors for entry. If you took primary human airway epithelial cells, those are cells that are removed from the conducting airways from transplant recipients, the lung they gave up, not the lung they received. So they take on the architecture of the human lung. SARS loves to replicate in these little cells that have cilia sticking out of them, and these viruses grow in those cells as well as the epidemic strains. And you can do a variety of experiments to try to get an idea of their pre-pandemic potential. So they replicate in the right cells, and they replicate exceptionally well. If this mouse, the parental strain is virulent, and you drop these bat strain genes in, they attenuate virulence. That's good news. But if you take a mouse that has the human receptor in it instead of the mouse receptor, these viruses are lethal. So they clearly have the potential to cause lethal disease. If you take vaccines against SARS that work against SARS, they don't work against these variants that are sitting in the animal pools, zoonotic pools, and therapeutic antibodies that are present that work against SARS don't work as well against the more distant strains. So the answer is there's still lots of pre-epidemic viruses around. This is the SARS story, but you can go to flu or any other virus that has emerging potential that pops up, causes an outbreak, and then disappears. It's still here. They don't go extinct. They are waiting to return. To say which flu strain was the worst, and I wasn't allowed to say coronaviruses. So things like SARS disappeared after 2004. Ebola disappeared. Zika virus has almost disappeared. So are these viruses actually extinct, or are they just hiding? We've actually asked that question with SARS. These are, again, between 2002 and 2004. These are the viruses associated with the expanding SARS epidemic. Most of them are gone. In fact, all of them are gone. We can't find these viruses anymore. But when you sequence bats, these are virulence. Now, the good news is that these viruses that are killing the older animals, if you put them back in the young animals, they don't kill them. So it's population control, I guess, at its worst. The equity market was in a bull market both years. I think to some extent that was due to World War I. There was such high death, especially for the British in that war, that they were so glad the war was over. They were very happy. During the SARS epidemic, very different thing, commercial airlines lost billions of dollars. In fact, there was a 54 billion economic loss during the outbreak. Oh, yes, there it is. During the Ebola outbreak, there was about an 8 to 10% drop in the market. It then quickly recovered. I wanted to give you good news. There are winners out there, right? So if you're looking at, if you want to be prepared and make money in the next pandemic, if that's what you want to do, buy stock in hazmat suit makers and protective clothing, or companies that make antiviral drugs for that particular pandemic. You'll probably do pretty well. There are actually mutual funds for pandemic preparedness. You can bet on anything in this country. Some products do well. 1918, including masks, same thing today. Pandemics really are times of opportunity, and I like George R.R. Martin's quote of chaos is a ladder. There's an opportunity for people to have political gain, financial gain, and personal gain during times of social upheaval. And that will probably occur. There will be misleading stories.
Scott Jensen. I represent Carver County. This is one of the most important videos I've made, and one of the hardest. Frankly, it's been a very difficult decision to make whether I even wanted to do it. Less than a week ago, I was notified by the Board of Medical Practice in Minnesota that I was being investigated because of public statements I'd made. They listed 2 allegations. They said I've been spreading misinformation in regards to the completion of death certificates on a news program, which happened to take place on April 7th. And you could find that one. It was with Chris Berg if you wanted to. And the other allegation was that I provided reckless advice in my willingness to compare COVID-19 and the flu. When I got this letter, I was ticked. And quite frankly, I leaned into the comfort and wisdom of my family to help them, let them talk me off the cliff. But doggone it, if this can happen to me, my view is it could happen to anybody. I mean, I've been a family doc for 40 years. I work hard. I love my patients. I do house calls. I've been medical director. I've held staff positions in hospitals to help make things work better. I've been in the Senate for 4 years and I've learned a lot. I've never had anything like this happen. Shoot 'em out. 5 years ago, I was named the Minnesota Family Doctor of the Year in Minnesota. And I get this because a couple people complained, and I don't get to know who those people are. I don't know if they're routinely in a political camp, if they're activists. I've gone online and looked at what it takes to complete a complaint that the Board of Medical Practice has to follow up on. It's a one-page deal. You can say what you want. You could be a huge donor for the other party, and I wouldn't get to know it. I wouldn't get to know if you live in my district. I don't get to know anything. I checked. So here I am. I've spent the better part of the last 6 days preparing a response. I understand how important the work is that the Board of Medical Practice does. I mean, physicians do screw up. Two of the big areas where physicians mess up is inappropriate sexual behavior, inappropriate self-medicating, certainly with opiates. But this is an odd position for me to be in, and I am just stunned. But I should have seen it coming, because I saw the threats on social media. I've seen them for the last 2 or 3 months. I've seen them come from physicians. I've seen them come from people in all walk of life. They didn't agree with me. They didn't like it, that I was trying to provide some context for the flu, for COVID-19. We've had some 35, 40,000 cases of COVID-19 in Minnesota thus far. According to the Department of Health people, that might translate into 10 times that many. And if it does translate into 10 times that many, that's 350,000 cases. But in 2018, we had more than 500,000 Minnesotans with the flu. When I say that, am I recklessly giving you advice regarding COVID-19 and the flu? Dr. Anthony Fauci has come out and compared them all the time. Dr. Mike Osterholm has. In terms of the death certificates, on April 3rd, I got an email from the Department of Health that said very clearly that we should report COVID-19 on death certificates if it is assumed to have caused or contributed. Well, that's not how we do death certificates. The official ICD-10 coding for April 1st, 2020 through September 30th, 2020, during the time frame in question, says this: if the provider documents suspected, possible, probable, or inconclusive COVID-19, do not assign U07.1, which is COVID-19 disease. It says, assign a code explaining the reason for the encounter, such as fever, or a cough, or shortness of breath. That's what the official instructions say. So I get this on April 3rd. I end up inadvertently, sort of accidentally, running it up the flagpole with Chris Berg on April 7th. And what happens? The Department of Health, a few days later, comes out with a clarification. And then a few weeks later, they come out with another clarification. And I appreciate it. Fact of the matter is, I'm proud of the Department of Health in Minnesota for saying we are not going to list non-confirmed cases as deaths in Minnesota. We are going to put an asterisk by them, and we'll follow up on those later. But that's not what Pennsylvania was doing. That's why they had to subtract 200 patients from their COVID-19 death count. Colorado did the same thing. New York went the other direction. New York said, we're having more deaths in a certain period than we normally have, so those deaths must be COVID-19. We just didn't pick them up. So never mind the testing. We're adding 3,700 to our total, and oh, well, that does increase our total by 50%. So I'm in the position where I have to explain that I wasn't spreading misinformation. And I'm not being reckless when I talk about COVID-19 and the influenza, both being single-stranded RNA viruses that are respiratory in nature with similar symptoms and can be spread through particulate matter and aerosol transmission. I just want to leave you with a couple of questions you could maybe ask yourself. Do we think it's okay for physicians to certify in death certificates that someone died of COVID-19, even if there was never a COVID-19 positive test obtained, even if there was never a COVID-19 test done, even if a COVID-19 test hadn't even been considered? And maybe the worst even if the family had no clue that the death certificate they received for their loved one was going to say COVID-19. What do we want to be doing there?
You may know, as of today, and I say as of today at this hour, we have 33 confirmed positive tests for the virus.
Yesterday we had 22 cases. Today we have 33 cases, so it has gone up by 11. That brings, those are 11 new cases. 22 goes to 33.
As we sort through this here in Arkansas, today we have 33 confirmed positive cases in Arkansas.
As of today, we have 33 confirmed cases with Boston residents. We expect those numbers to climb.
As of this afternoon, we have 33 Pennsylvanians who have tested positive for COVID-19.
So as of this morning, there were 33 cases in North Carolina.
Good evening to you. Lots to get to tonight. I'm Leon Hendricks. We want to start with new information into our newsroom. Within the past couple of hours, there are now 33 confirmed cases of the coronavirus in Michigan.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us for the news at 6. I'm Richard Gearhart. Karina Corral has the night off. More cases of the coronavirus were confirmed today in San Luis Obispo County, bringing the total number now to 33.
Right now, Georgia is reporting a total of 99 cases in 19 counties. That is 33 new cases from just yesterday.
Good afternoon, I'm Karen Swenson. More cases and more events affected. Here is the latest coronavirus news. There are now 33 cases in Louisiana.
As expected.
The number of cases of COVID-19 jumps. A total of 33 people in our state have been tested and are confirmed to have the coronavirus.
Day 4 of the shelter-at-home order brought 6 new confirmed cases of the coronavirus to San Luis Obispo County, bringing the total number to 33.
All troopers will be professional, polite, and will treat everyone with dignity and respect.
These latest steps as the number of confirmed COVID-19 cases in Rhode Island jumps by 33 overnight.
And with 4 more deaths reported overnight, the death toll now stands at 33.
The Ministry of Public Health has confirmed a batch of 33 new COVID-19 cases. Thailand now has an accumulated number of cases.
తెలంగాణలో కరోనా వైరస్ బారిన పడిన వారి సంఖ్య 33 పెరిగింది. నిన్న కొత్తగా 6 కేసులు నమోదయ్యాయి. ఇందులో ఒకరు కరీంనగర్కు చెందిన 23 ఏళ్ల విద్యార్థి.
The Ministry of Public Health has reported that the number of confirmed cases of COVID-19 in Thailand remains at 33.
10 new confirmed cases have been reported in Malaysia, bringing the total now to 93. Health Director General Dr. Nur Hisham Abdullah said they were first and second generation close contacts of case 33.
Patients 21 to 24 announced yesterday evening, March 9, 2020. This brings the total number of confirmed cases in the country to 33.